The U.S. Forest Service pioneered the use of airplanes to drop fire retardant on wildfires, and up to the early 2000s had traditionally relied on contracting with private companies to provide large air tankers for fighting forest fires, the majority of which had been former U.S. military aircraft. Aircraft relatively inexpensive to obtain and could carry the large loads of fire retardant needed to make their use effective. Formerly home to Hawkins and Powers in Greybull, Wyoming, the Museum of Flight and Aerial Firefighting preserves an important piece of aviation history. The museum is dedicated to the types of aircraft and retardant systems that have evolved over the years into the awesome aerial firefighting capabilities used today. Hawkins and Powers Aviation may no longer be in business, but it is still an important part of Wyoming history and firefighting as a whole. The company, which was based out of Greybull from 1947 until 2002, started as an aerial spraying company that was known under different names before becoming Hawkins and Powers Aviation in 1969. The company first aided in fighting a fire by loading a spraying plane with water in 1950. Hawkins and Powers Aviation eventually became one of the largest privately owned firefighting operations in the country. Most of their fleet were retired military aircraft. In the early 2000s, two fatal crashes during firefighting contracts and cost concerns caused Hawkins and Powers to later close. The museum welcomes visitors mid-May through the end of September, weather permitting. The Museum of Flight and Aerial Firefighting was founded in 1987 and incorporated in 1992. When the museum began, Hawkins and Powers aircraft was still actively being used in firefighting operations throughout the western United States and Canada, and some of Hawkins and Powers aircraft are among those showcased at the museum. PB-4Y Privateer. During World War II, it was decided to navalize the B-24 Liberator, originally designed for the U.S. Army Air Corps, hence the PB-4Y2 was born. The privateer featured a longer fuselage, a large single 32-foot tail stabilizer, and turbo-supercharged engines. With its 2,800-mile range, the privateer was so useful that the Navy took delivery of 739 of them, but very few reached the front line by the end of World War II. The PB-4Y2 went on to perform during the Cold War as a radar and electronics countermeasures platform. Following service with the U.S. Coast Guard, the aircraft were retired in the early 1960s. A small number were then used as fire bombers in the U.S. until 2002. The two PB-4Ys in the museum are privately owned. Boeing KC-97. KC-97s were based off the design of the B-29 bomber from World War II and used as airborne fuelers until retired in the late 1970s. This aircraft was moved to the Museum of Flight and Aerial Firefighting on February 1, 2025, and it was a Hawkins and Powers air tanker based in Alaska on contract for the Alaskan Fire Service. C-119 Flying Boxcar. C-119 saw extensive action in Korea and Vietnam for the U.S. and were used mainly for hauling cargo and troops. Many C-119s were provided to other nations as part of the Military Assistance Program, which included the Royal Canadian Air Force. After its retirement from active duty, many C-119s flew on in the U.S. National Guard until the mid-1970s. The two C-119s in the museum were purchased by Hawkins and Powers in the 1970s. Hawkins and Powers used Tanker 136, with the jet on top for firefighting. The other C-119 in this museum was used for aerial spraying, movie making, and cargo hauling. This aircraft was featured as the Spruce Goose in the Aviator movie. The two C-119s in the museum are on loan from the U.S. Forest Service. Neptune P-2V. The P-2V was a maritime patrol and anti-submarine warfare aircraft. It was developed for the United States Navy by Lockheed. The concept for the Neptune began early in World War II, but was considered a low priority compared to other aircraft. The first Neptune aircraft was accepted into military service in the year 1947. The Neptune was designed to be land-based and never made a carrier landing. The military retired the P-2V in 1984. The P-2V has been used by several civilian firefighting operators as an air tanker. In an effort to have more modern aircraft that have turbine engines for firefighting, the U.S. Forest Service decided that 2017 would be the last year to have the P-2V on contract. This P-2V was donated to the museum by Richard Camp of Lewes, Delaware, and the Save a Neptune organization. Beech 18 Twin Beech. The Beech 18 started life as an American transport plane for the civilian population in the year 1935. In 1939, World War II interrupted the Beech's civilian life, and it became a military aircraft. Beech built a total of 4,526 of these aircraft for the Army Air Force between 1939 and 1945 in multiple versions, two of which are the AT-7 Navigator navigation trainer and the AT-11 Kansan bombing gunnery trainer. After World War II, Beech returned to manufacturing the civilian Model 18, used as mail delivery, spraying, movie making, and for banner towing. Later, the U.S. Forest Service used the Beech for smoke jumpers and cargo transport. The twin Beech ceased production in 1969 after 30 years' run and 9,388 aircraft being built. There are still many twin Beeches flown today all over the world. This twin Beech is on loan from the U.S. Forest Service.
We're doing this for all of you. If you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment below. See you next time.